It took me 3 years and £97,459 before I truly understood marketing for online businesses. It took me a lot of blood, sweat and tears to get to this point that I'm at now, but I want to take all of the guesswork out of the marketing for you and just deliver it to you on a plate essentially. Now, I've literally gone from this young 19-year-old boy with a dodgy haircut who had a dream of leaving his 9 to 5 and having a life of freedom to eventually leaving that 9 to 5 and now living a life of freedom, doing pretty much what I want when I want, all because I learned the basics and fundamentals of simply how to market for online businesses, right? And look, at the end of the day, no matter what type of online business you've got, whether you're a coach or whether you've got any type of other online business, if you don't understand the basics and the fundamentals of social media marketing and leveraging the platforms to get the clients and the business that you want, you are going to get left behind, because there are so many amazing business owners out there who are using these processes, using the online world in such a way and leveraging it in such a way where they're absolutely thriving, right? And I've generated myself and the coaches that I've worked with for over £450,000 in revenue from the knowledge and from the years and the thousands, tens of thousands, almost hundreds of thousands that I've invested into marketing for myself and for my clients, as I say. And yes, sure, I know you're going to say, well, there's people with bigger numbers out there. I'm sure there are. But I think for those of you who aren't at crazy, crazy numbers already for yourself, then I believe you'll find this really, really valuable. So let's get into this. Now, look, before you're wondering what is this guy putting up on the screen, I'm not a movie nerd, right? I don't really watch films, I don't really watch TV, but I did enjoy the Avengers movies, right? And when I was putting together this video, I was like, what's a good way to summarize the importance of these 6 elements that I'm about to show to these people watching this? And for whatever reason, this just popped into my head. Now, if any of you have ever watched the Avengers, Thanos gets this Infinity Gauntlet, and long story short, before I start nerding you all out and everyone gets bored of me, essentially, he needs 6 stones on his gauntlet, and when he snaps his fingers, half the planet disappears, and it's all about bringing peace to the universe, whatever it is. I don't even know if that's exactly right. It's something like that, okay? Anyway, the whole idea now of why I've pulled this together like this is because these 6 elements that I'm about to show you for marketing your online business, when you bring them together, all of your problems are going to disappear from a marketing perspective and from a perspective of knowing how to get clients online, right? So I hope you like how I've put the spin on that there, but that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. So I'm going to insert a clip of what I mean of Thanos clicking his fingers so you can understand it for those of you who maybe don't understand.
Should have gone for the head.
But anyway, essentially, these are the 6 elements, right? And these 6 elements, the whole idea is that when you get all of these elements in alignment and you bring them together, all of your problems, like I say, disappear from a marketing perspective and from a getting clients perspective. So I'm going to break down all of these 6 elements. And like I said, my 3 years of just sitting here sweating behind my keyboard, learning the marketing, and the £97,000 that I've invested into the marketing campaigns for myself and for my clients, what I found, it boils down to these 6 elements, which I'm about to break down for you today. So let's get straight into this. Okay. So the first message and the first element of marketing online business, and let me actually make myself small so I'm not too distracting here, is oversimplifying. Okay? And this is going to, again, sound simple, but it's simple for a reason. Now, in an over-communicated society, the only way to stand out is to oversimplify your message. Now, what I find with a lot of online business owners, especially some of the coaches that I work with, is they make their messaging and the way that they target people so complex, so over the top, and so difficult for people to comprehend. Now, here's the first thing to understand about why it's so important to oversimplify, as summarized in this one-liner that I got out of a really good book that I read, is that, look here, right? These are just a collection of adverts that came up on my feed after literally just 2 minutes of scrolling. Right, I just scrolled for 2 minutes, screenshot all the ads that came up, and look at the vast variety and collection of ads that I've seen that have come up here. Okay, we are in an over-communicated to society. Your target avatar is getting absolutely bombarded with adverts, with marketing, with sales pitches from everybody who's trying to sell them something. Now, if you really want to break through the noise, and if you really want to stand out from all of these ads that are constantly coming up, like I said, you have to oversimplify what you're doing. You have to make it plain, you have to make it simple, and that is the simplest way to stand out, because if you can speak directly and clearly to your target avatar, your message is going to speak head and shoulders above the rest. And when I say clearly and directly, I'm talking about speaking their language, clearly understanding their points and portraying that, clearly understanding their goals and portraying that, Clearly understanding the avatar and just getting that across in your messaging. Right now, this is gonna lead to my next point, which was on the Infinity Gauntlet above, so this will make sense in a moment. But this is the first part, which is absolutely vital. You have to oversimplify. You have to keep it so simple with your messaging. Don't try and be fancy. Don't try and be cute. Keep it plain and simple. Now, a big mistake I see a lot of people making as well is, for example, like I've worked with like executive coaches and leadership coaches. And just because their target avatar is a bit more professional, a bit more advanced, making more money, they try to make their messaging fancy. They try to make their messaging overly complex. But again, no matter who your target avatar is, no matter who you're going after, make it simple because they are still over communicated to. They go on the phone, they've got ads. They go on the laptop, there's ads. They go on the TV, there's ads. They go in the newspaper, there's ads. Through the letterbox, ads. On the billboards as they're driving down the road, ads. The radio in the car, ads. As they're getting on the train to work, ads. There are literally ads everywhere. So it's about making it as simple as possible. And a lot of people challenge me on this and say like, well, why do I need to oversimplify? Why do I need to define a niche, for example? Because the way to oversimplify is to define a niche and a target avatar, which I'll get to in a moment. And the reason being, right, is let's look at some of these massive companies. Microsoft, Coca-Cola, Apple. Some of the biggest companies in the world with some of the biggest ad budgets in the world. These guys probably spend hundreds of millions, maybe even billions on advertising and marketing campaigns throughout each year. And these guys can target everyone because they have such a big budget. Now, the interesting thing is they can't physically reach everyone and they have this massive budget. So what I always say to people is that if the biggest companies in the world with hundreds of millions of pounds to spare on marketing and advertising can't physically reach everyone and be broad as they want with their messaging with that sort of budget, how can you do it with your budget of 500, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 a month on ads or marketing? How is that physically going to work? So the first thing I really want you to take for anything that you're doing with your marketing is oversimplify it as much as you can. Make it as so that a baby could understand it, right? And make it as so that your target avatar doesn't have to think or to process about what you're saying. Like I said, there's just too much noise out there. If you are putting stuff out there which makes your target avatar think, which makes them process, which makes them brainstorm, which makes them go, what does that actually mean? Does that make sense? I don't understand that. They're just going to scroll right past you because look how many ads are going to come up. Another ad will come up. Another competitor who can sell to them will come up and will have something to sell to them, right? So oversimplify. Now this leads me to my next point of ICP. Now ICP is Ideal Client Profile. And the first step to actually oversimplifying is defining your client avatar. Now how these two link, right, is because a lot of people, what I see that they do is that they define their client avatar in a very complex way, in a way which is difficult to understand. So it's complex for people who aren't the client avatar to understand. So how can the client avatar even understand that you're targeting them? So the oversimplification and the niche definition ties into the ideal client profile. And essentially it's just who exactly do you help? And can you keep it as simple as humanly possible, right? Now, my rules for defining the client avatar are I help X person achieve Y outcome and overcome Z problem. The client avatar that you're helping should be able to be plugged and played into this one-liner. Now, the rules within that I've realized that have worked the best for the majority of coaches that I've worked with is define one person that you're helping, help them with one overarching problem and one overarching transformation. Now, what I would say is when you're defining your client avatar in this way is just because in your marketing message, your front-end marketing message, you share this, it doesn't mean that that is the be-all and end-all and that's the only type of person you will get, right? And what I get with, especially with the coaches I work with, they go, oh, but I solve more than one problem. Yes, I know you do, but you can't list them all down in one piece of front-end marketing. So for example, right, I help coaches with lead generation, adverts, defining their niche, creating content and a brand online, helping them with conversions and booking in calls or converting the calls to clients. How can I put all of that in this one liner to define who my client avatar is? I can't, really. I can't at all, can I? The only way that I can do that is by talking at the overarching problem, right? And the overarching problem for me is that coaches can't get clients. But like I said, within that, all those things I just listed. So when you're defining your client avatar, you need to keep it so simple, so direct, so plain, and like I said, oversimplify it, right? Oversimplify. The simpler that you can make your marketing message, the harder it's going to hit your client avatar, the more it's going to connect with them, and the more that they are going to really connect with your messaging, essentially. Now let's look at some do's and don'ts. So the do's for defining your one-line on your client avatar is, first of all, it has to be tangible in what you're helping on. So a big mistake I see a lot of people make when they're sort of defining their client avatar is they say, for example, oh, I help people feel happier. What does happiness mean? Happiness means a million different things to a million different people. So the more tangible you can make the promise that you're selling in your marketing, the more effective it will be. So for example, like for me, right, I could say I help coaches feel happier in their work by getting them more clients. Or I could talk about the direct outcome, which is how many clients or a certain revenue number, for example. And that's the difference in making it tangible. And every single niche can do that. Every single niche can make what they're doing tangible and specific. So it's something that I definitely recommend you look at, is how can you make what you're offering as tangible as humanly possible. Now, sure, for some niches, you're not going to be as tangible, but the more specific and the more outcome focused you can make it, at least, which is something that people can quantify as much as they can, that will make your niche more effective, okay? Now, again, I said it earlier, but the second point here is to make it so a child that could understand it. So that a child can understand it. I thought I typed it wrong there, but I didn't. It's as simple as that, right? Again, like I said earlier, there are so many people trying to speak to your target avatar. If you make it complex for people to understand who it is that you help, or people have to take time to process your marketing message, I promise you they will just swipe past, because there is going to be somebody else that will serve them, that will do it simpler. If you can speak to your client avatar in the simplest way possible, right, and give them the least amount of brain power required to get the outcome that or to realize that you can get them the outcome that they want, you are going to win every 10 times out of 10 against the person who's trying to market to the avatar in a complex way, which doesn't really make sense. Okay, so really, really important that you do that. And then lastly, consider customer awareness. Now, a big mistake that I see coaches specifically making is they speak to a portion of the market or a target client who doesn't realize they have a problem, doesn't realize there's a solution to a problem, and because of that, they're speaking to someone that needs so much education before they buy. So much education. So imagine the difference, right, for me. Like, imagine I'm targeting a coach who understands they've got a problem and has tried some solutions before and had no results, compared to a coach who doesn't realize even that they can run ads, compared to a coach that doesn't even realize that they have a lead generation problem, that doesn't even realize they have a sales problem and thinks that everything's going all right. How much harder it's going to be to sell to the first coach compared to the second coach. So really make sure that you understand and what you're selling and offering and promising in your front end marketing is directed towards a customer that understands they have an issue, that is consciously aware of their issue. And even if you can, a customer who has tried solutions or has actively looked at solutions to their issue, because they're going to be always more educated buyers, people who are going to be more invested in what you're selling, and just overall better customers. That's what I found. So those are some strong do's of what, like I say, what you should do when it comes to defining your client profile. Now let's look at some don'ts, okay? And the don'ts are really important. First of all, talk about a need rather than a want. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard that famous marketing concept where it says about people don't want a 1/4 inch drill bit, they want a 1/4 inch hole in the wall. And it's a really, really important concept. So whenever you're putting out your marketing, you really, really want to make sure that what you're speaking to is what the client avatar wants. So let me give you a prime example of this. So a coach that I work with currently, she sells like an app on a platform which is all about building up the mental resilience of the target avatar, okay? And the issue is that her target avatar needs that, but that's not necessarily what they want. So if she speaks in her marketing about you need to build up your mental fitness, you need to build up this element of your brain, etc., etc., people are going to switch off because people don't really know what they need. They just know what they want. Whereas if she spoke to the outcome that the client wants in her marketing, instead of focusing on what they need, people are going to connect with her messaging much, much more. So what I really want you to ask yourself and think about when you're defining your client avatar is sit down and ask yourself, right, is this something that I know my client needs, and am I speaking to that side of it? Or is it something that I know my client wants and am I speaking to that side of it? Because those are usually two very different things. Like, for example, when I speak with people on like discovery calls or coaches that I'm potentially going to work with, when I speak to them, no matter what they're saying to me, I can pick out, right, to be fair, they need a proper advertising strategy. sounds like we need to work on conversion of converting leads to calls as well. That's probably what they need. But if they tell me that they, for example, want to work on their messaging and they want to work on their content, then I've got to be careful and tread the line of not just speaking about and trying to lecture them on what they need, but rather focus on delivering on what I know they want, if that makes sense. So it's just about treading the fine line, especially in your marketing. Like, it's not about, the marketing's very rarely about you until you're sharing your story and who you are. It's more about, like I say, what is it that the client avatar wants? Speak to that, and you will speak so deeply to them that it will make it inevitable that they want to eventually work with you, okay? The second thing never to do when you're defining your client avatar is be generic. The worst thing that you can do is try and serve like multiple client avatars, like I say, solving multiple problems up here with vague outcomes like be happy, because again, it's just not going to land. Again, a common misconception that people have is that the deeper they go and the more specific they get on the avatar, the worse that it's going to land or the less people that it's going to reach. But again, because there is so much noise, if you can oversimplify your message and be even more direct to your target avatar, you are going to connect with them at such a deeper level. It is going to project you on a level 10 times further, right? So always make sure you are specific, you're direct with your niche, and you're never generic with it, okay? And again, this goes back to that point of these guys, right? They can be a bit more generic with their marketing, but they've got hundreds of millions to spend. You likely don't have that, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video. So don't ever be generic. And lastly, just don't overcomplicate it. Again, it goes back to this point of oversimplify. Like, don't ever try and be fancy or be cute or use fancy wording. Like I said, make sure a child can understand it. So that is everything that you need to know about your client avatar. Okay, and the client avatar is like the foundation of your marketing. If you're not 110% clear on exactly who your client avatar is or can't define it within these set of rules, there's nothing to build on from a marketing point of view. And no matter what marketing you do, no matter what content you post, no matter what ad campaigns you run, nothing is going to stick because the avatar's not locked in and what you're offering to that avatar also isn't. So work on this first of all, right? This is one of the most important parts. So the next part to look at is the shop front. Now this is quite an interesting concept and I've not heard anyone speak about it in this way, so I hope you find this useful. So think of it this way, okay? A brick and mortar business has a shop front, right? When you walk down your high street, down your local shopping area, wherever you live in the world, and you're walking down the street, obviously the physical shops in person, they have a window and they have a sign out the front. Now, the shop front, the purpose of it is to like hook you in, essentially, right? It's to show you what the shop's about and it's to tease you the products. If you walked past a shop in the high street, for example, with no sign, with no display window, with no products in, you're more than likely not going to go in. It's not going to pique your curiosity. It's not going to make you interested. It's not going to make you want to buy from that place. So what we need to do, essentially, is we need to build our own sign and our own display window. Now, we don't have, like we say, we don't have an in-person physical brick and mortar business, but we do have something that we can actually replicate it with. And that something is Instagram. And that's what I'm going to show you, because what a concept is that I've developed and started to understood is that, yes, okay, we don't have a physical big in-person sign of people to look at, and okay, we don't have the physical products in the window, but our Instagram can actually replicate that. So I see this part of our page, and I guess for any social media, again, this can apply to LinkedIn, this can apply to Facebook, X, YouTube, whatever it is. The bio of it, the profile picture, the top section of any profile is like your sign. It's the way that it hooks people in. And the content is your display window. It's like teasing your products and getting people interested to come in. Now, I've skipped a bit there, but how this works essentially is for your sign, essentially for people to be interested and know a bit more about what it is you do and whether it's worth looking at you, you need to show them exactly what type of business owner you are. So as you can see here, I show that I'm a digital marketing sales expert for coaches. And in your bio, you need to hit 3 key lines, right? So let's just get a pen here. So line 1, you need to show, such bad writing, who you help plus how, right? Line 2, share some social proof. So for example, like I say here, generated coaches 6+ figures in revenue. So for example, you could do like 10 years experience, 10 years plus experience. Again, the reason that we back it up with social proof is because, look, anybody could come on here and say, I helped this person achieve that based on the ICP line that I gave you up here. Anybody could come on here and say that, so that's just giving us a bit more proof. And then line 3, have a call to action. So send people to your link or tell people to DM you, whatever that may be. Now, again, this works as the sign at the shop front. It's not going to convert anyone. It's not going to make a sale, but it's just going to stop people in their tracks and make them interested and go, let me have a look at that. Okay, so that's the purpose of this part of your page. This is the framework I recommend you use for your bio. Profile picture, clean professional headshot. Like I said, have your full name and share what type of business owner you are. So, for example, health coach, wellness coach, business coach, whatever that may be. And then, follow those steps there. And my call to action is to a link. Okay. Then these story highlights, again, not every social media platform you can replicate it on, but if you can do it on Instagram, I recommend that you pretty much just replicate what I've done here. Results, testimonials, a bit about you personally, and promote your long form content. Some of you, that may be a book, articles, newsletters, podcasts, whatever that may be. Then let's look at your display window. Now, the way that I see content is, like I said, the content are like mini products which can draw people in, entice them, and make them curious as to how you can help them, right? Because it's an opportunity to share your expertise and to provide tons of value. Now, let me show you what I recommend you pin at the top of your page, and then we can talk about the rest of the content. So first of all, here, very simply, share your story, right? The key here is to link it as much as you can to your client avatar so they can relate to it. So talk about where you were before. Again, link that to your client avatar's current state. Talk about your transformation, and that should link towards what you actually sell on now, what the unique mechanism that you're selling your clients on. And then talk about your after state, which is usually something that your client avatars want. So share that, right? Very simply. Again, you can do a photo of you with the text in the caption, or you could have a look at my page. This is my username. You can also do like I say, you can do a breakdown in the caption, or you can do like a photo with overlay text, for example. Secondly, share some results and some case studies, very simply. So pretty much you just want to show people that you are an expert at what you do. So you can share testimonials, just written testimonials, or you can share interviews if you've got them, or you can share a case study with a testimonial with a case study breakdown with a before and after state of your client, again, to assert the fact that you are an expert. And then lastly, you've got 2 options, right? On this post, I either recommend that you introduce your unique mechanism, or that you essentially show a bit more about who you are personally. So show your values, show your beliefs, show who you are as a person. So for example, there for me, I show a picture of me doing a speech for coaches, and I talk about the hard work, the commitment, the dedication it took me to get there. And my intention behind that is to show people my values and my passion for what I do, my enthusiasm and my commitment to it, essentially. Right? So those are the pin posts that I recommend you do. And the reason I recommend you pin those are those because they build the most trust, and they also help build the connection at a deeper level, right? Everyone's posting generic content nowadays, which doesn't really land with your target avatar. People want to know who they're buying from, and this does exactly that. This shows who you are as a person twice here, unless you show your unique mechanism here. Unique mechanism would be more to do with why you're different compared to everybody else that they've seen, but either or doesn't matter. And then this obviously shows that you are who you say you are and that you can genuinely help them. Okay, so those are the pin posts I recommend. Now, the rest of your content, think of it this way. Your target avatar has a big overarching problem. What makes up that problem are loads of little micro problems. So for example, the overarching problem that I solve for coaches is getting clients. What makes up that issue is they don't know how to define a niche, they don't know how to create content, they don't know how to run ads, for example, they don't know how to build their shop front, they don't know how to book in calls, and they don't know how to convert calls. Right, so all of these micro problems become my topics of content. And essentially what I do is I speak only on these topics, and I share tips, tricks, insights, advice, guidance, ways of thinking, with the idea and the understanding of the fact that I want to help my target avatar as much as I humanly can to genuinely solve their problems and reach their goals. And by doing that, I'm going to be giving them pieces of the puzzle, showing them my expertise, showing them my value, and that's going to build trust, connection and curiosity for them to want to see how I can help them, essentially. It's pretty much as simple as that. Right, now another way you can also look at your content is following this split. Now, not all of you will be able to do this, and if you're a bit newer, I recommend you just stick with the 40%, but 40% of your content should be problems, micro problems. 30% should be sharing results, and 30% should be sharing about you, very simply. That's another way to break up your content and your your shop front, so to speak. And if you follow these steps and this process with the bio and your highlights, if you're on Instagram, and your content to build that trust, essentially what's going to happen is that when people come on your page, they're going to see you as the expert. They're going to see you as the person to solve the issues that they've got, and it's going to make it almost inevitable for them to reach out or connect or interact and show their interest, because you are positioned in such a way where it's so interesting to them. And again, the whole purpose of doing this is to hook people in. That's the purpose of a shop front. Whether you realize it or not, the purpose of shop fronts are to hook you in, to make you curious to come in and to buy. Same purpose of our Instagram, they're to hook people in, to make them curious to how we can help them, to start conversations, in our case, which is the equivalent of coming into our shop, our actual shop, and then open opportunities to buy. It's pretty much as simple as that. Now, the intention and the idea behind your page is you aren't making your page to try to sell. I recommend you approach your page with the mindset of, how can I genuinely help my target avatar? Okay, so that's what I recommend you do with your page to build your shop front. And again, what I found with a lot of the guys and the coaches and the clients that I've worked with is that once they build out this shop front, they build out the sign, they build out their display window on their Instagram, what they'll find is organically they'll get a lot of people coming to them. And if people randomly stumble across them or land on their page and have a look at what they're doing, they will come on and they will be like, this person is for me, let me reach out to them. And I've had a lot of clients where before we even launch their advertising campaigns and start really getting them growth in that sense, they're getting people coming to them just because of how we've optimized this. And again, this all stems from, first of all, oversimplifying, right? You have to oversimplify everything you're doing, and that continues with building your shop front. And that also comes from really understanding your ICP. Because if you don't understand your ICP, if you can't make a targeted shop front that's linked to this avatar with this messaging that you've defined here, and if you can't do that, the shop front doesn't hook people in. So this is why I showed you those steps earlier, because they're so important. So that's how the shop front works, and that is absolutely vital for you to do. So far, just to recap, like I said, oversimplify everything in your messaging, make it so a child can understand it. Make sure you're super clear and defined on your target avatar. And once you've done that, build out your shop front for that target avatar. Okay? With that alone, you'll be surprised that when people find you organically, like I say, you're going to get conversions. Okay, so let's go on, but this is what I recommend so far. And this alone, like, it seems so simple, but honestly, it took me so long to learn it, especially from coming from no marketing background or experience and having no idea about the online world. So really do take this in and don't overlook it, because it's really, really powerful stuff, right? So the next thing we can start to look at is persuasion marketing. And essentially what this is about is topics we can create our content on, which pretty much makes it inevitable that your shop front converts. Right, make it inevitable that when people look at this shop front, they're going to come into the store, and our equivalent of coming into the store is messaging or booking in a call, for example. Okay, so let's look at the different elements of persuasion marketing, because there are quite a few, and I'm going to go for each one. So essentially how the persuasion marketing works as well, just before I go into them actually, is that when you speak on these topics in your content, in your marketing videos, it makes people 10 times more likely to want to work with you, to be curious about what you do, and like I say, again, to come into your shop front because we're speaking to the deep psychological elements of this target avatar. Now, again, I don't need to get into the psychology or why it works. I just need to explain to you how it works, and then you can apply it for yourself. So let me explain. So first of all, root cause of their issue. So this is about really amplifying and making it clear in your content and your messaging what's actually the real cause of the issue for your clients. So the root cause of their issue, usually what you should do in your marketing is highlight it as something that they probably haven't realized. So like if you're a career coach, right, your clients, they may think that their issue is their CV. But if you can introduce them in their marketing that actually, you think the root cause of your issue is your CV, but actually it's X, what's going to happen is that's going to speak to a deep psychological element of the brain. And your target avatar is going to be more connected, more curious to what this root cause actually is. And if you can speak about how you solve this root cause of this issue that they didn't realize was there, your conversions are going to be so much higher. It's as simple as that, right? So that's the first thing that you can do in your marketing. So think about that for yourself. Think about a common issue that your target client thinks is stopping them from getting to where they want to, and introduce to them a new issue which they haven't realized or really thought about, and explain to them how that's the real thing holding them back. And then position yourself and speak in your marketing on solving that issue, or show that you are the only one that can solve that. That's the first thing you can do. Second thing you can do is you can encourage their dreams. Very simply, what does that mean? Right? Everybody has dreams. Your target avatar, they're in a, I don't even know what I was trying to draw there. Your target avatar is in a place now, and they've got a place over here that they want to get to, and they've got this gap. Now, what's really powerful in your marketing is very simply, I don't really need to explain this, but encouraging their dreams, amplifying and reassuring to them that it's possible, showing them examples of how they can do that. So a prime example is sharing testimonials and case studies. Another example is talking about your own story if you've gone through that transformation, but encouraging people's dreams as much as you can is going to make them more connected to you. It's going to build up their belief. It's going to build up that emotion. And it's going to build up that connection to you thinking, okay, maybe this person can help me get there. So always encourage your target avatar's dreams once you've defined them. Next is justifying their failures. So what does this mean? So essentially, your target client probably at some point, especially if we look back at the levels of customer awareness that I mentioned over here, if you're targeting the right portion of the market, the portion of the market which is actually speaking to people who are problem aware or solution aware, they've probably tried something before and likely they failed. So a really powerful marketing technique to persuade people and to make them really interested again in what you have to offer is justify things that have failed for them. So for example, coaches that I work with typically have used funnels, and that isn't actually the most optimal way to get clients, which is actually something I'm about to get into in a moment. But what I do is I explain to them, look, coaches, you have struggled with your marketing because you are using funnels. Now, the reason that they don't work is X, Y, Z, and that is a big reason as to why you're not where you want to be in your business. And again, I'm going to explain this concept in a moment. And these concepts aren't made up. Like, we're not making up stuff to try and persuade them. These are real issues linked to your target avatar, and this is really important that you understand them. But majority of the coaches that I've worked with have tried a funnel at some point, and they wonder why nothing's worked. But by me speaking on why the funnels don't work, it makes coaches so much more curious and engaged into wanting to work with me because they're like, what is this guy talking about that's so different? So it's really, really important that you justify your client's failure. So let's, again, think for another example. So again, let's use the career coaching example because it's just coming to mind quickly. So career coaching clients, they have probably tried to apply for jobs using LinkedIn, right? So what you could do in speaking your marketing is explain why LinkedIn is wrong. Explain why it won't work and explain why they have struggled to get the results. So something you could say is like, look, if you're a corporate professional and you've struggled to land a role because you have focused all of your attention on sending message requests on LinkedIn, then of course you're struggling because LinkedIn causes X, Y, and Z issue for you, which won't allow you to get to your goal. Instead, do this, right? So it's a great way to persuade people to your way of thinking. Now, the beauty as well of the persuasion marketing is, like I say, what it does is it also opens the door for people to listen to how your way is different. And that's the whole purpose of it. So by justifying their failures, it makes people go, this person gets me. This person understands. This didn't work. There's a reason it didn't work. What's the different way? And then you introduce your unique way of doing things or why you're different. Same with encouraging their dreams. Same with all of these elements. This is the purpose of it. Next, confirming their suspicions. Again, very simply, for example, my potential clients are very skeptical. Right, they're very skeptical because of all the noise in the market. So essentially, what I can do is speak on this skepticism and show to them, look, I can appreciate you're skeptical. I can appreciate that you have concerns there because there are so many people out there who aren't legitimate and aren't great at what they do. Now, by me saying this alone and confirming that suspicions are real, again, it just opens up and clicks something in their mind where they're like, okay, let me listen to this guy. He's been very open. He's been very transparent here. He's meeting me where I am. Let me listen to what he has to say. So this is a really powerful thing. So if your clients have very common suspicions about what they're doing, speak on them, show them that you understand them, and that will then open the door for you to explain to them how you're different or how your process is different. So really, really important concept. Next, throwing rocks at their enemies. Right, think of this way. This is such a powerful concept. Your target client is going to have an enemy in some way, shape, or form. So for example, the enemies that the coaches that I have worked with are gurus, people that promise 10k a month, funnels, etc., etc. So essentially, enemies are things that your target clients don't like. So if you can speak out against these things, again, what it does is it goes, oh my God, this person understands me. They understand my problems. They understand that these things don't work as well. What have they got that's different? So again, like, I haven't made it up. One thing I don't like even for myself is the typical traditional marketing or sales funnel. So I speak out in my marketing about how funnels are wrong and how they're the wrong thing to approach. And I say things like, look, coaches, I'm not surprised that you hate marketing or you're struggling to find clients because you're using funnels. And that alone clicks their curiosity and they're like, right, this guy knows something different or has something different. I want to see how he can help me. So think about how you can incorporate that. A less tangible thing, which I can explain, is, for example, like a lot of the coaches that I end up working with hate people that promise 10K a month. So they hate the people that are making crazy promises or constantly promising these things, because they usually end up not being able to help. So in one of my ads, which was really successful recently, my intro was, coaches, I'm not going to guarantee you 10K a month. I'm not going to guarantee you 500 appointments in the next 30 days like all of these gurus do. And by me doing that, that builds so much trust and opens them up to listen to what I have to say, because it sounds different. And that's the power of the persuasion marketing. Now, allaying their fears, essentially putting their fears to rest. So if your target client has a common fear of something, you can very simply address it, pretty much. So I'm trying to think, for example, so like a lot of the coaches that I work with have never run ads before. So there's a fear for them around adverts. So if I'm trying to convince people in my marketing that adverts is the right way to go, I can put their fears to rest. Like, for example, coaches, look, I can understand ads are scary. It's very common for you to not know how ads work and because of that be resistant to trying them. But let me explain to you what you need to know about ads to remove that anxiety for you. So you can speak directly to it. But essentially the purpose of all of your marketing, right, is to, like I say, speak directly on the micro problems of your target client, but also build up that trust with that avatar and win them over to your way of doing things. Okay, so within these micro problems, you can also add in these persuasion marketing videos. So for example, like in my marketing, I'm trying to win people over to stop using funnels. So again, if I want to introduce that and I want to persuade them, I can do that by justifying their failures or confirming their suspicions first to get them open-minded to listen to what I have to say. Okay, so that's allaying their fears. And then lastly, why does your process work but theirs didn't? And this is a really, really important one. So a lot of people will have ego and a lot of resistance as to how you could possibly help them. And they need to understand why your process very simply works but theirs didn't. So show the difference. So show them that they were doing X and show them why they couldn't get to Y because of the mechanism that they were using. But if you can show them if they use Z, then they'll be able to get to Y. That will essentially, again, open them up to listen to what you have to say. So make sure you can clearly understand why what your target clients have done before doesn't work and share that in your marketing. So again, for example, if you're a mindset coach and all of your clients read self-help books, why did that not work? Why did that not get them the result they wanted? Explain it and introduce what they have to do differently. And obviously what you're introducing becomes the thing that you're selling, very simply. So that's persuasion marketing. And like I said, we do that to make it inevitable that people get hooked into our shop front here. And yeah, that helps us to also introduce our mechanisms of how we do things and to open people's minds up and to help them be more open to that we may have a different way and that we can help them, essentially. So the next element now is the funnel versus beaker approach. And this is what I was actually talking about earlier. Now, this isn't something that's just made up. This is a real concept, which is something I've developed after I said spending all this money on ads and things like that. But here's the thing with funnels, right? Typical funnels, you generate a name, an email, a phone number, get people to opt in. You send them a freebie, which they never read. They opt in, they don't know who you are, they don't know your story, they don't know what you're about. You try to follow up with them, 80 to 90% of them disappear. So you lose all your leads out of the funnel that you've invested in. And then the 10 to 20% of the market who are ready to buy and who you do have conversations with don't buy because they don't know you, they don't have trust in you, they have no idea what you're about, and like I say, there's no rapport built there. So essentially, if you're using a funnel, what you're doing is you're generating leads to lose a massive portion of them. You're generating leads who have no trust or low trust in you and who you are as a person. And to build that trust, you have to do so many steps and so much work in between to make it work. And like I said, you're wasting a portion of the market. Here's the thing as well, 80 to 90%, God, this is so dodgy to write with, 80 to 90% of people will not buy right now. They'll buy down the line. But by using a funnel, you're actually losing 80 to 90%. So you're losing opportunities here. You're losing potential clients. So I don't actually recommend funnels for most people, especially coaches. I actually recommend the beaker approach. Now, the beaker approach was an approach, again, I developed after spending a lot of money on ads and campaigns and losing a lot of money and just thinking to myself like, right, okay, if I want to generate leads, I need something that's going to retain the leads that are going to buy down the line. so I'm not wasting my ad spend. It's going to be easy for me to manage them, my leads, instead of, again, sending them through funnels where you just have a bunch of emails and phone numbers that you can never follow up with. And something that's going to nurture my audience in a way where when they jump on calls with me, there's so much more trust and there's so much reciprocity there. So like I said, the typical ads and the funnels that you would run, send people down your funnel and you send them to an ebook or a webinar or some sort of lead magnet. And like I say, you get them to opt in, but a lot of them disappear, right? How many times have you run a webinar, an ebook or a lead magnet and the leads have been low quality, or half of them don't even open the bloody email with the ebook in it. The ones that do read it, when you follow up with them, they like, who are you? Why are you calling me? Or why are you emailing me? And you have such a tiny portion of people who are potentially interested. And like I say, you get on the calls with them and they're low quality. They have no idea really who you are. They have low trust and it just doesn't end well. So instead, the way that the Beaker approach works is it ditches all of these ad approaches and it sends people to the shop front that we've just created. So as you can see here, I haven't just magically structured this out for no reason. There's some knowledge behind it and some process. But essentially what we're doing is we're sending people to the Beaker, which is the shop front, so to speak. So instead of sending people here and saying to them, look, give me your name, give me your email, give me your phone number. You don't know who I am. You don't know what I'm about. You don't even probably know what I look like. But claim my free thing. I'm going to follow up with you and chase you. I know half of you or 80% of you are going to disappear. I know the ones of you that don't disappear are going to tell me to go away, majority. And the ones who do stay there might book a call. And if you book a call, I know there's going to be no trust. We're saying to them, look, if you're this person with this problem, come and look at my page. Come and look at my shop front. And I'm going to show you exactly how to overcome your problem and achieve your goal. And this is the difference and again, I'm going to talk about how you get the traffic to this page in a moment. But this is the difference between the funnel ads versus the Beaker ads. The Beaker ads are driving people to the shop front that you've built for this specific target avatar with all of this persuasion marketing on there. So when people come on your page, imagine the difference, right? Imagine the difference between opting in for an advert and just seeing some words on a page or an hour-long webinar from somebody you don't know who then tries to hard sell you, compared to opting in for an advert where the page is all about delivering value and helping you as much as you can. You can see the person's story and exactly who's helping you, so you can make an informed decision as to whether you like them or not. You can see all of their results here and here, so you can have faith in the fact that you know who they are. You can see more about who they are as a person here and here. So again, you can build more of a connection with them and decide if you like them. Then as well as that, their whole page is set up to giving you loads of little videos which are giving you useful insights and advice onto moving you closer towards your goals and towards overcoming your problems. And then again, I'll talk, the conversion bit is a whole nother bit, and that's where the sales comes in. But then essentially how it works then is, instead of, like I say, sending people down this funnel for them to claim this stuff and then not read it, not indulge in it and just disappear, we're driving people into here, into our Beaker, telling them to follow, to stay on our page if they find this useful, which it will be useful if you set it up in the way that I've mentioned. And then by doing that, like I said, you have people where you're nurturing them, because you can't lose them now, right? They're not going to opt out of the email. They're not going to opt out of the SMS. They've personally opted in to watch your content, so they're not going to leave. The content nurtures them, builds that trust, builds that connection, builds that rapport. They're in the Beaker, right? So the ones who don't buy right at this point in time are going to be able to buy down the line because they're constantly seen and being nurtured by your content. But then essentially what you do is that all of these people that come into your Beaker, you message them. Hi person, just saw you join me on my page. What's your current situation with, and then ask them a question about a big goal that your target client typically wants, or a big problem that they currently have as well. And essentially, right, by doing that, then you start conversations. A percentage of those conversations, you can see how you can help them, you qualify them, you book them in for calls, you convert them. It's as simple as that, right? And like I said, the people who don't initially respond, who don't initially book in a call, or who book a call but don't convert, they're in your Beaker here, they're in your ecosystem, so your content nurtures them, keeps you front of mind. And yeah, I've had a lot of my clients who would do typical funnels before with like webinars, lead magnets and those things. They'd spend loads of money on ads, and once they'd run the ads, the leads that they generated would just disappear, never to be seen again. And I've had a couple of examples, like Susanna, the career coach I've worked with, who you can see her testimonial on my Instagram, on my website and on this YouTube page as well. She would, when we were running this Beaker approach for her, what she would have is that she would have people that would turn up like 3 months after we initially spoke to them, or 6 months after she had a call with them, and be like, look, I've seen your content, I've stayed in touch with what you're doing, I really like it, I've seen your results. Like I said, where is it? Up here. Where's it gone? The 40, 30, 30 here. And they go like, look, I really want to see how you can help me again, and let's make this work. And then they've signed up down the line. With a typical funnel, you don't have that. Sending somebody an email or a cold text message is not the same as constantly being front of mind with content which is designed to persuade them and to be genuinely helpful for them. It's completely different. It's a completely different dynamic. And what tends to happen when you set up in this way and you set up your shop front, because you've set up your sign correctly, you first of all hook in the right people. And because you've set up your products or your display window correctly, it again makes sure that once you've hooked in the right people, they stay in because they find it so valuable. So this is the new approach to lead gen essentially, right? And I guess the last point to touch on this then is like, okay, let's do a little quick recap again. We know to oversimplify, we know to make everything towards one client avatar. We know how to define the client avatar. We know we need to build a shop front so that we can attract our client avatars. We know we need to speak on the persuasion marketing points to convince people to our way of doing things and win them over. We know we need to stop using funnels and we need to use the beaker approach to generate leads in the simplest way possible and to make sure we have the best chance of conversion. But then how do we find the people to see all the work that we've been doing? Now, I've sort of jumped ahead there, but that's essentially the question, right? Where do you find your target avatars? Because you can set up all of this, but there's still no guarantee that people are going to see it. And this is the next point. How do we get traffic? Now, the options for traffic are very simply content, outreach, referrals, and adverts. Now, let's talk through them all. Now, the first thing I do want to note is that they all do work, but it's about finding what's the most optimal for you. And there is one thing on this list which I'm going to discuss, which is the most optimal. Now, first of all, content. Content is obviously a great thing to have on your page because of the beaker approach, like we've shared here. Now, the issue with content alone is it's never usually enough to get you exactly where you want to get to. The problem is with that is because content is inconsistent by nature, right? You're not always going to be able to post. And if you are able to post consistently, there's no guarantee that the content that you are posting is going to the right person every single time, or that piece of content is going to go organically viral. So what I find with a lot of business owners, especially coaches, is that when they rely on content, they're facing inconsistency. They're guessing when their next client's going to turn up, because no matter how good you are at content creation, it's never going to be possible for you to get the exact same amount of views every single day, or for the piece of content that you post to go to the exact right audience every single day, because it's a little bit out of your hands, right? So content is not something I would recommend relying on solely. I recommend using it in your shop front, like we said here, but not having it as a sole relier. Now, let's look at outreach for business owners. Now, outreach is another great way of getting clients and getting the traffic to you. Now, if you're setting up the shop front, like we said there, outreach, a lot of the time, it's hard to then drive people to your shop front because the ways of outreach are usually cold calling or cold emails. Sometimes you can do cold DMs, but again, people usually don't respond. And again, also think about the dynamic of outreach. Like if you're positioning yourself as an expert in your shop front, so to speak, experts don't go to people and chase people. Experts have people coming to them, right? And this is the main change in the main dynamic. And the issue with outreach is it approaches it with that dynamic. And like I said, because of that, you're on the back foot immediately. You're going to people trying to offer your services rather than coming to you and asking for your services. The dynamic's twisted. There's also a cap to how many people you can outreach to. It's very draining. It's very tiring. Trust me, I've done it for years and it's not the most fun for sure. And then obviously to top that as well, right, is for a lot of people out there, for example, a lot of the coaches that I work with, they can't outreach to their target client. Because, for example, I'm working with a guy now who has a really cool program where he helps people land jobs in the football industry. He can't really search and find those people, right? He can try on LinkedIn, but how is he going to know who exactly is looking for a job in football? There's going to be such a small percentage of people that actually want that. Or to give you another example, I worked with a parenting coach and still working with her. And her thing was about helping parents who had a lot of anxiety because their children weren't being as successful as they had hoped. How the hell did you find that online? You can't type in on LinkedIn or Google people who are anxious about their kids. So for a lot of business owners, unfortunately, unless you're doing like B2B or like selling to specific corporate roles, which can be found on LinkedIn, you can't really do outreach. So outreach, again, it can be a good mechanism. Again, all of this stuff works. It's just not the most optimal. Then referrals, obviously referrals are great, right? Referrals are always going to be the best business that you get, give you the best amount of conversion and things like that. But obviously with referrals, there's only so many people that your people know. So the reach only goes to a certain point and you can't get the growth and the reach with it that you want, essentially, because it's capped. Now the last thing, which is, if you haven't told by now, is ads. And ads is the exact thing that I'd recommend that you get and you focus on when it comes to traffic. Now think of it this way, right? We want to get eyes on our shop front so we can convert people. Now the whole point of setting up the shop front is so people can see it, right? The physical in-person businesses, they put themselves in the street in busy areas so that people walk past so they can see the shop front, so they can see the display window, so they get hooked in and they come into the store. Okay, so we want to get our own source of eyes and we want to do it in the most predictable and consistent way possible. Now the beauty is with adverts is that you set an ad budget and every single day your ad is going to be shown to the same amount of people and shown to the people that are your target avatars. So you're going to get the right eyes on your shop front, so to speak, every single day, which gives you the absolute optimum chance of conversion, essentially, right? And this is exactly what I recommend that people do when it comes to getting traffic, ads. Again, even if you start with a small budget, start with something, get yourself out there, give yourself the absolute best chance of getting the right eyes on you and your shop front converting, right? Because you've spent all this time setting up your shop front for the right person to see it. You might as well spend the time and money as well to make sure that you're sending the right people to see it so it has the chance to convert. And again, if all of these things are in alignment, like you're getting the right eyes with your ads, you've set up your shop front for the one target avatar, you've oversimplified your message, you've got the persuasion marketing on there, you're clear on all the other elements that I've shown, you're going to have the absolute best chance of conversion. And when you set it up properly, like getting clients and making more money with your business is just inevitable. The coaches that I work with, all as soon as they apply these Beaker principles and build their shop front and they switch their ads on straight away, 20 to 30 leads a day, calls coming in straight away. So these are such important concepts to understand. Now, the ad framework, the last thing I'm going to leave you with here is the ad framework I recommend of what to say to get the eyes, to get them on your shop front. Very simply, hook. So hook, call out exactly who your target avatar is. Who exactly are you helping? And again, a lot of that definition was done all the way up here when we showed this line, right? So the hook's the most important part of the ad because you need to speak directly to who it's for to hook them in and get them to watch the rest of it. Then you list all the pain points that the client avatar typically has. Again, that's to show them that you understand them and to, again, qualify and speak to the person that you want. Then give a clear call to action that shows you have a solution. So a lot of the time, come and look at my shop front. Obviously, you're not going to say shop front, but you know what I mean. Come and look at my page. I'm going to show you how you can overcome X problem and achieve Y goal. Share some social proof. Again, anybody could pull together an ad and say that they've done X, Y, and Z. Share as much social proof that you can on that. And then lastly, just restate your call to action and the benefit of them clicking on your advert and looking at your shop front. And that's pretty much it, right? And if you follow this whole process, you are inevitable that you will succeed with marketing with your business. And like I said, this process alone has generated myself and my clients over £450,000 in revenue. And this flow is, it's the most successful. Like I said, I've tried pretty much every strategy under the sun and nothing has come as close to this. So those are my 3 years of marketing advice. Those are my best learnings. Those are my most simplified learnings. And those are my learnings that have got me and my clients all the success that you will see across my social media and what I'm doing. So I really do hope you found that useful. All the info you need about me and what I'm doing, if you want to explore me further, how we can potentially work together, or if you want to connect more on Instagram and ask me some questions, will be in the description of this video. But I hope you found that useful. Make sure to subscribe if you did. I'm going to be posting content like this every single Tuesday. And yeah, those are my 3 years of marketing advice and close to £100,000 that I've spent on campaigns condensed into one video. So I hope you found that useful and I will see you next week.